good afternoon, people on the internet. It's a really nice, hot day here in my garage. So today we are reviving my long and forgotten E46. So this was my daily driver from 2018 till about 6 months ago. And started having some issues and it got put in a storage location. It's kind of just sat there, kind of forgot about it, bought a new daily, and just been neglecting the BMW. Which, you know how it is, you get other projects going and kind of forget about it. So I'm gonna head over to the storage location to where the car is and I'll catch up with you there. And we made it. So yeah, I rented this garage out, last winter, when this thing started having issues, and kind of stuffed it in there along with a bunch of other crap I have. And so we're gonna revive it. And luckily it's right next to my other garage. I don't drive this thing in the winter, and like when I was in college, I just rode the shuttle in the winter, so it never moved. So I bought a different car, and my fiance has been really begging me to get the BMW back on the road because she misses it so much. She didn't say that. So here we are, reviving her. Just a quick overview of it. It's a 2004 BMW 330i ZHP. It is black leather with a 6-speed, and I love this car. It is probably like my favorite car I own, surprisingly, because it's just such a great car. Started having issues with it, like I said, have an engine light for some vacuum leaks, and then I developed an oil leak. The battery stopped doing battery things. So it sat for like half a year. So to start, like I said, I got a fresh battery for it. It is a whopping 850 cold cranking amp, which is absurd. And I can't believe I only got $12 core charge for the other battery out of this thing. Let's stuff that in there. And then I think I need to bleed the cooling system because I was checking it and it seemed low. And I kind of just want to check it out, see how that looks. Might have a little coolant leak action going on too. And we'll check the oil, and then we'll just fire this pupperoo right on up. Battery is in, lights came on, so that's a good sign. Let's bleed this cooling system and get her started. All right, so first things first, you need to get the front of the car off the ground, which I already done. It kind of puts the cooling system at the highest point to bleed it. Then we need to remove the cap and the bleed screw. As you can see, I've already messed with this before. There's already some coolant residue. This makes quite the mess, so I'm gonna throw a drain pan underneath of it, try and catch some of it, which will probably not catch any of it. I'm gonna start off with distilled water, mainly because I remember putting coolant in it last time and needing some water. There's tons of videos online about this, so I'm not gonna go into great detail, but pretty much all I'm doing is I'm gonna start filling until a solid stream is coming out of the bleed hole, and then I'm going to turn the heat on inside the car and just let it circulate while it gets bubbles out, put the bleed screw back in, and then we need to siphon some of the coolant back out because it will be overflowed, and this makes quite the mess. Man, I miss this interior and this BMW beeping noise. Just such a cool interior. It's comfortable, it's nice. So we're gonna turn the heat on, temperature all the way up, and fan on the low setting, and let it just start circulating. We're just gonna turn it on the auxiliary position. We're not gonna start the car. Okay, so the level went down immediately. I'm gonna put some coolant in it. All right, so it's been kind of just streaming out of the bleed hole. No more air bubbles are coming out, so I think we're ready to install the bleed screw. Definitely be gentle with the bleed screw. There's no reason to get rough with it. Just snug her up. So now you just need to siphon out the excess coolant out, which I'll be using a shop vac that I don't care about with a funnel taped to the end of it because I don't have a siphon. People use a turkey baster a lot. You know, I don't have any of those, so. Right on the money. All right, battery is in. Cooling system bled, oil level checked 3 times. I think we're ready to fire it. The plan was to fire it, let it idle for a while, pull her out, and give her a little razzle dazzle with the pressure washer, clean up some of this coolant because I made quite the mess on the floor and in the engine bay. But a little weather report action is indicating that we have a storm rolling in, and feels wonderful outside now, but hopefully we can get the car pulled out and cleaned up a little bit before that rolls in. All right, so far so good. I've been checking for leaks. Haven't really seen any or nothing. So I'm just gonna pull it outside, let it idle for a little while, and probably should check the tire pressure as well. So I'm gonna do that too. What an amazing looking car. This thing is super clean. It came right out of Arkansas, so it has no rust at all. All it's got is some major sun fade action going on the roof, and the hood's not shut, so that's why it looks like there's a gap. It's got a nice little gouge right there and some weird paint chips and miscellaneous and that stuff, but you know, just like everything else I got, just needs a little TLC. So let's get this thing pulled over here. Let's try and get the engine bay kind of spiced up, and let's just wash the whole thing. Why not? Okay, I'm all set up, ready to wash this thing. Sorry about the wind noise, but I got it jacked up so I can wash underneath, try and get some of those oil leaks and coolant residue from this bleeding system, but I'm gonna get right to washing this. All right, so no more than I started washing this thing. You saw me foam the hood and stuff, and then my foam cannon stopped foaming, and my little Harbor Freight transfer pump just started screaming and making an awful noise. And so I took it apart, and a little bit of like either calcium or like algae buildup, you can kind of see some of my filter, made its way through and like kind of jammed this thing up, and I think it sent some of it all the way through and into the foam cannon. So the foam cannon was not foaming. So I'm gonna have to take that apart and figure that out. So I kind of just like used it the best I could to get most of it and then just rinsed it off. So I'm still gonna wash the engine bay, but I'm gonna use the hand foamer for that. And then hopefully this transfer pump just hangs on while I clean the engine bay and clean up my oil and coolant residues. All right, so like I was saying, washing this thing did not go to plan at all. I think I figured out the foam cannon has some little debris like lodged in a little foam piece that makes it do foam stuff. So this thing remains like half washed, whatever, but I at least got the engine bay pretty much cleaned up and underneath cleaned up. I did that off camera because there's really nothing to video. But I'll be able to tell where it's leaking from now, which I have a feeling it's leaking from the oil filter housing gasket, which is really common, and probably the oil pan gasket, which I don't know if I'll do the oil pan gasket unless it's like really bad. See, like things don't always go to plan, stuff happens, and my pressure washer setup here is definitely just not ideal, but I don't have any water supplies, so I have to use this tank to a transfer pump, and yeah, it does the job sometimes.
60% of the time, it works every time.
Like today, just didn't want to cooperate, so no big deal, but kind of stinks for content. But let me just show you around the car a little bit. So to start off, I think I mentioned this already, but it's a 2004 BMW 330i ZHP package, which all that really is like a little bit more aggressive camshafts, has a MTEC 2, I think, front and rear bumper and side skirts. And then it has the Alcantara M3 steering wheel. And then it has like a ZHP exclusive gauge cluster with a little bit higher red line. As far as stuff done to mine, it has just a Denon cold air intake. I think that's how you say it. And then it has a Corsa catback exhaust. As far as like the story with this car, like I was saying, I went down to Arkansas about 5 years ago and picked it up. It was listed on Marketplace. It was only on there for like 30 minutes, and I messaged the guy, pretty much sold, like I'll take it. And thankfully he held it for me, but he listed it for $3,000, and it came with the full M3 rear end with the limit slip and pretty much everything to bolt in. And it had an engine light for a vacuum leak, which I ended up fixing. And then I dailied it for like 3.5, 4 years all through college until it got this engine light, developed an oil leak, and yeah, now we're here. And the interior is in really great shape. Really, the only thing it needs is a headliner, but it's not that bad. And then it also has like a sport wheel that he swapped on it only because the Alcantara was like chewed up on the M3 wheel. But I do have the M3 wheel. I just need to rewrap it. And I don't think anything will ever compare to a ZHP shift knob. It just feels so good. Some other stuff that the previous owner did is he did these Euro style taillights, and he debadged the whole car. And I believe he did some clear side markers. I know I have all the original lights and everything back at my parents' shop. And I think he changed that headlight because that one is really foggy. So plans for this thing, I'm just gonna drive it for now and enjoy it the way it is. And then the plan is down the road, a couple years from now, I plan for this to be my first LS swap vehicle. I've always wanted to throw an LS in it. Kind of just letting this thing just do its thing for a while and then save up and hopefully stuff an LS into this thing one day. But that's gonna do it for today's video. The goal was just to put a battery in it, get it fired back up, and get it out here, washed up. Really stinks that my pressure washer kind of messed up today, so it wasn't my normal detailing video. But I'm just glad to see it back on the road. And so we're just gonna keep it on this oil leak, and then we'll tackle that once we figure it out. But that's gonna do it for the video. Thank you guys for tuning in. Stay tuned for BMW content, and thank you guys for watching.